The Circle. We have tonight's guest is Scott Strawbridge.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, thanks for being here on the show.
It's great to be here.
So, for those who are just tuning in, who may see this, this is going to be a weekly broadcast every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I'll be talking with social entrepreneurs, activists, artists, all types of people from our community. And I'm really glad to have Scott on here tonight. Thank you. So I'm just going to list off a couple of things because you have a kind of extensive list. So, Director of Development and Facilities for the Housing Authority of Fort Lauderdale, Step Up Apprenticeship, Cis-Trunk Art Partnership, Cis-Trunk Health Community Zone, VP of Artisan Development at East Lawn Records, Detroit's premier independent blues and jazz label, and Night Arts Grants awardee. That's a mouthful.
I have some hobbies too.
Oh, so what are your hobbies?
We'll get to that.
Okay. And I would have to say, since it's Bob Marley's birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Happy
we
birthday.
miss you, Bob.
Are you Jamaican?
No, but I did live in Jamaica in the 70s, and I was actually the audio manager of the Reggae Sunsplash Festival.
Oh, nice, nice.
So, yeah.
Because you have like 10 jobs, man. So I just have to.
Yeah, I take it a little washing too.
Yeah. So okay. So wow.
Funny.
I guess where do we start with? So what do you do for the Housing Authority? For some people who may not know.
Well, my main job. It started out Director of Development Facilities. Means that I'm a builder by trade. Mm-hmm. So my job at the Housing Authority was to tear down all our old stuff and oversee getting new housing built. Over the last 11 years, we've done a lot of that, but there are gaps in. Sometimes they need me really a lot, and then I'm waiting for other folks to get a deal ready when we build it. They're 100, 150 units at a time, all the banking, all that other stuff. I work with the physical stuff, not the money stuff, so they can go do their thing. So I got to the point where I started using a lot of that time to work in the community. Since we were building in the community, I thought that it would be valuable to really get to know people better and try to figure out ways to make our housing be of service to them instead of just being a warehouse. Mm-hmm. So I guess that kind of describes it. It goes into then the Step Up Apprenticeship, mm-hmm. which is under my division, and there, because we're always building and fixing stuff, we always need a workforce to help us take care of our property. We also live in a community where unemployment is very, very high. Educational attainment is very, very low. Poverty is high. Pretty much the zip code has a lot of really stressed out indicators to it. And one of them results in a lot of young men and women who fail to finish high school, and many also find themselves in some form of trouble with the law. At a young age, without the high school diploma and with any form of criminal background, they are pretty much unemployable in the legit market. So we recognize that, and because we're at the core of a community where that challenge takes place, we took the bull by the horns. We employ about 20 young men and women for 2 years, paid, under professional supervision. We have a master's level GED teacher that comes in every morning. We teach technical training every week with a nationally certified accredited trainer. And they get 2 years of a paid experience learning how to take care of multifamily property. During that process, they build all the kitchen cabinets for all our new developments. They generate a lot of goodwill throughout the community. They help us run an urban farm and a lot of other really cool activities. It's something that I get excited about every day. I'm going to say one more thing about that in case we move on, and that one of the proudest things I can say, having been over Step Up the last 11 years, is that currently 16 of my coworkers at the Housing Authority, full-time coworkers with benefits, 401ks, disability, life insurance, 16 of them are graduates of that program.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive.
And I couldn't be more proud. We've put a brand new $400 million portfolio of property in their hands to help us operate. And I feel like when I'm done, a few years from now, that things are going to be smooth because we built it from the ground up.
And I think that's important because you're building things within the community, but you're also engaging people in the community and taking people, like you said, they may not get jobs traditionally. If they don't have a high school diploma, maybe they had some trouble with the law, whatever they went through, and you're saying, here, we're going to take you and give you a skill. And now you have a job, and now you have benefits, and they could, be a change for themselves, their community, their families, their homes. And I think that's something really commendable. And I think that's something that's very important because a lot of times people come in and they develop something, but they're not really focused on the community there. And I think that's one of the things that I love about you, that you're very invested into the community and connecting and building and using the people that's in the community. I think that's an important thing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so if someone wanted to get involved with this Step Up apprenticeship program, how do they go about that?
Well, it's a program of attraction, not promotion. Folks, young men and women, and even up into their 40s, we've taken some, come in, they walk in our door over at 500 West Sunrise Boulevard, just over in 33311. They come in every day. I want to say the staff tells me we see on a range of 20 to 30 applicants a week, and I have 22-year positions. So the waiting list is over a year.
Wow.
And it's stringent to get in. Sort of a star search kind of a thing. The young men and women have to appear in front of a committee of supervisors and folks. I don't sit on it. I would be too biased. I would fall for every sob story in the book. So I get 4 or 5 really discerning people, and they'll interview 15 or 20 candidates when we can only pick 2 or 3. So it's. I wish we could do more. I know there's many more we could serve if we had the help and the capacity to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And so, what about the Sistrunk Arts Partnership? What's that about?
Wow. Okay. So yeah, now we're going to skip around. So, like I said, in between building stuff, I thought it would be good to help us start to rethink the way that our housing looked and also the way the public realm looked around it. So, going back a little bit before the partnership, for example, when we built Kennedy Homes over on Broward Boulevard, we did a call to artists, and the entire property is populated with public art from local artists. And as we began to build Northwest Gardens, we saved an old duplex over there and converted it, as you know, into the Art House Community Studio. And then the megaphone came along, and we all of a sudden had a performance venue parked in a little pocket park. As all this was going on, we began to partner with the Broward Cultural Division. As you guys live here, this is actually the coolest artist live work space in all of South Florida, where we're sitting right now. And the folks that brought this to the community came to us and said, we'd like to find ways to make Sistrunk more attractive for tourists. We think there's something here in the culture and history that could be cultivated. And I said, I agree, and I think we've done something here, and I want to stick on this point, could I, for just a minute?
Sure.
That bringing an arts partnership into a community typically means that something, and not saying this to offend anybody, but it means something like Wynwood or Flagler Village is probably about to happen. Or Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon, or CA. You hear the artists are coming. Probably in most of the instances of case studies, you see that then 7 to 10 years down the road, the artists can't afford to live there anymore. There's Starbucks on the corner. A bunch of corporate welfare takes place, and then it all becomes a public-private partnership, so to speak. More private than public. And so, you know, how do you capture the essence of that, but allow it to sustain and be inclusive? And while there wasn't any real imperative for this, we set about and built this neighborhood, Northwest Gardens, with this art studio and the farm and the performance space and all of that. And there's just in the neighborhood alone, 660 brand new units of affordable housing that are going to be affordable for 30 years.
Wow.
And all those amenities are there for the folks that come to live. So maybe we've found an antidote for gentrification. And I want to go on and tell you that I was down in Coconut Grove this Saturday, and they've heard of us.
Wow.
The mayor said, "You're the guy?" And over in Dania Beach, 2 weeks ago, the Housing Authority put forth a proposal to tear down all their public housing and build new. And one by one, the public housing residents got up and they said, "We want this. We want it to be just like Northwest Gardens." So the testimonials are coming forward. So anyhow, you asked about the arts partnership, but this is really big because we wanted to not have a way where the artists' work forced them into exclusion. We wanted to have a way where they could work into a continuing inclusion. So we started working on bringing in artists in residence and offering exchanges of time, space, and services, mutual exchanges that didn't involve a lot of cash, just involved all of us trading time and space. And from that, 20 or more artists have come in, from including Niki and Alana and Ruth Barat, who's not yet graduated high school, the youngest artist ever to be commissioned for a public work in Broward County, to Gary Moore, an elder who's got permanent installation at the African American Research Library, to Pablo Malco, a world-renowned dance impresario who's now running a hip-hop dance academy a couple of nights a week. And we have, for our part, just provided the time and the space to make those things happen. The community has stepped up. Next steps.
What are next steps?
Well, there's a new makerspace in the works.
Oh, yes.
And we've got some steps still to take, but we've identified a location just a block from Sistrunk and 9th Avenue, and we've begun to work with the county and other partners. And I see us in the next year or two having a really interesting space, not only to make art and artisanal goods, but to display it, to sell it. I think there'll be some form of locally grown food integrated into that. And we actually see it as an option for tourists coming to town.
Cool. And yeah, I would say I'm happy to be one of the Sistrunk Air artists in residence. We've had several meetings, and you all say, we want to engage you guys, come up with programs for the community. What can we give you? Do you need space? So it's really inclusive. I enjoy that you guys want to really hear our ideas, as well as help us facilitate those ideas and create some sustainability for the artists, create programs for the residents. There's a lot of things going on in Northwest Gardens that's targeting the residents there, but it's open to the community. The megaphone, there's a lot of things going on there. And so that's really important. And so one of the things you kind of touched on, but I definitely want you to get into the Sistrunk Health Community Zone.
Okay, so I've been a team leader for the last 3.5, 4 years on a project that was funded largely through the Center for Disease Control. In our region, there were 4 neighborhoods across Broward that were identified as super hot spots of food insecurity and of high rates of preventable diseases like diabetes, type 2, heart disease, kidney disease, these types of things. Sistrunk, where we work, is an extremely high incidence of death from all causes, and most especially from nutrition-related diseases. So they asked us if we could work with the community over the course of years, and maybe it had to go beyond food. Maybe we had to look at the streets and the sidewalks. Maybe we had to look at the entire environment. Maybe jobs had something to do with it. Maybe transportation had something to do with it. So with this support funding, we put together a community-based group, and we've been working together building a community action plan that culminated last October in a big, thick booklet that says we know who we are and we know what we want to do to help impact our health in the community. And it means that we need to affect policies at a local and regional level. It means that we need to affect the systems. Where are the grocery stores? And if they're not in our neighborhood, which happens to be the case, then how do we get transport? How does the food get moved around? Policy systems and environmental changes. If you're a potential type 2 diabetic and you live in a high crime area, urban area, you go to the clinic and the doctor says, hey, your blood sugar is high, your blood pressure is high, you're overweight, and and your cholesterol's high, and I can tell you right now that all of this is preventable if you walk more and adjust your diet. 2 very simple things. But if your option is to walk, forgive me for saying it this bluntly, past a couple of crack dealers to a liquor store where they got honey buns in the front, this does have an impact on your future health outcomes. It's really important to say this out loud. According to the Center for Disease Control and many, many medical professionals, doctors way smarter than me, your zip code is a more accurate predictor of your future health outcomes than your DNA.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, okay? So if you live in 33311, where I work, your likelihood of getting type 2 diabetes is 300% higher than, say, Flagler Village, right across the railroad tracks. Your chances of dying from it are 3 times higher. And your chances of finding a healthy food item in the store is actually 300% less. So there may be some corollaries between that. So we grow food. We built wide 7 miles of wide sidewalk. With the garden, it's a farm. It's 2,500 containers now. We just expanded it again. And Lisa Johnson, one of our Step Up graduates, is now our full-time urban farm manager.
Nice.
And next time you see her, ask her about her 401k. How cool is that, right? You know Lisa,
cool.
right?
Yes,
She grew up in the neighborhood, and she's making a success story, and she's changing the game for people's health. So we're not done with this. The project funding stream ran out, but we had so much momentum that between ourselves and the YMCA and Broward County and the City of Fort Lauderdale and all the other partners, Broward Regional Health Planning Council, we continue to carry this message and do this work every day.
And one of the things that I like about the community garden, because a lot of times people say, oh, why can't we have a garden? How can we get access? You go to Publix and different things like that. You're getting food that's shipped from everywhere. and it's they're expensive, and they're not always the greatest produce. But then you go to Northwest Gardens, there's like eggplants and vegetable and herbs, and they're going around and telling people, volunteer to help with the garden, you get free food, or you get Chef Chad to come in and create food to teach people how to cook with these food, because it's a challenge when you're used to like, let me go to the dollar menu at McDonald's and get some chicken nuggets. You think you're doing something quick and easy for yourself or your children, but you're actually doing them a disservice. But a lot of times, if you're used to those type of foods, you're used to that taste, you're not used to eating vegetables. So it's nice that you have someone who's also a part of the community to come out and say, I'm going to take the things that we grow here for our community and cook it and show you how to make meals from it. So
yeah, let me tell you this. Just in this past week, the first of the month comes around every month, and oh, that made a lot of sense.
Sorry,
yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
it does come around.
That
every
son
month.
of a bitch keeps coming back, and we like our residents, the 1,500 or so of them. We like the folks to come in and drop off their rent in the office. So this past week we tried something new called Rent Day Cafe, and I asked Chad to go harvest some fresh food from the farm, and then to go to one of the offices where on the 1st at late afternoon when folks were coming home from work, and he's cooking fried green tomatoes and the Asian stir-fried collard greens. So I gotta tell you, I sometimes I just I even surprise myself, but folks came and they smelled that and they ran home and got their checkbooks because they knew it was time to pay their rent. So so I got to tell you, not only did we get them to pay their rent right on time, we got them to eat vegetarian too, and that was like a home run. We've invited the artists now to come to Rent Day cafes. This is meeting people where they are. They're busy. This is folks who are working 2 and 3 jobs, or single moms, or seniors who may have mobility challenges. And for us to be able to meet them where we know we can intersect with a minimum amount of effort on their part, I think is something that they deserve.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm just going to take a quick moment to thank our audience guests, Ned and David. So I see my mom on there. Hi,
Oh,
Mom.
thanks, Mom.
Is there any questions or comments?
I actually want to say something. I'm trying to project since I'm not on camera. But all of this stuff that's happening sounds so over the top amazing. Why don't we see some stories about it in the media? Where is the coverage of what's taking place outside of Facebook Live?
Well, Niki's handling a lot of our feet on the ground social media stuff. Just in this past year, we engaged a PR company, and we have started a series of walking tours. We've been advertising through email and other blasts to leaders all around the South Florida region. Hence, walking into the Coconut Grove situation the other day, and the mayor and his staff and the district commissioner saying, "Are you Strawbridge?" So that it is getting out a little bit. But why didn't it before this? Honest answer, because with every bit of progress, there are detractors, and we, for good, bad, or indifferent, made a conscious decision to keep our heads down and get our work done and not to say too much about it until it was pretty much done. It still took a lot of flack. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Everybody loves notoriety, but I tell you, sometimes it can just it paints a target on your butt.
It does, but you're doing such good things for so much different segments of the community, and it's like, I remember when I first met you and we talked about some of the stuff that you've been doing. I'm just amazed that there aren't more people who are championing the cause, because it's such great work. So kudos.
Well, thank you, David.
Yeah.
And there has been some press. It's been in what the Sun Sentinel. There's been and wasn't it what is it, Lead Award?
Well, we have in 2012 I was actually sent to Washington D.C. to do a congressional briefing on our Northwest project. We won something called the U.S. EPA Smart Growth Award for Equitable Development. That same time in 2012, our Northwest Gardens project became the third neighborhood in the world to achieve a LEED sustainable designation, not just for the buildings, but for the entire neighborhood. Those things, and yet we didn't, after we had those things happen, we didn't do press releases on them. We just kind of handed them to the board, we hung the thing on the wall and said, let's just move on. And yet in this past year, we were ranked the best housing authority in Florida. We've won actually literally dozens of design awards, historic preservation awards. But again, we've never pushed the press machine to really tell folks about it.
And I just want to just like kind of jump on that as well, but that's why the circle is important, you know, because there's so many people that I've done work with. I've worked with Scott on a number of arts community projects, web projects, social media. What was it, the Kumba project Alana and I did with
yes, the park.
The park, when they were building the park, and we got with the residents and we talked about symbolisms. We did a couple of workshops, and they created symbols that I took, refined it a little bit, and got it, you know, etched in stone, you know, into the ground. So, but that's why this is important to me, because I know there's a lot of people that are doing all these things, and I want it to be out there, because the more people hear about it, the more people are aware, can share it. P.S. Share the video. So share it, get engaged. A lot of times people don't know what's going on in their community. They don't know, like, wow, there's a garden. There's actually a garden downtown Fort Lauderdale. Yes. They're giving away free food from the garden. Yes. You're going into, like, there's, I don't know if you're able to share about that store, Bob's store. Is it?
Let's not.
Okay, so but you're going into the community, you're helping, you're giving jobs to people who don't have jobs, you're employing local artists, you're employing local residents, you're empowering them with, you know, with food. And I mean, when I remember there was a meeting we were at, and you said something about, you know, a 40% jump in diabetes just because you're in a different zip code. You know, it's not your genetics, it's just a zip code, and, you know, and the access to healthy foods, you know, and it doesn't have to be through, what's that place? Not a farmer's market, what's the Whole Foods?
Yeah.
Whole check. It doesn't have to be
whole
through
paycheck.
Whole paycheck, you know, to get healthy access to healthy foods, and I think that's important. So it's like you're, you know, you're working towards empowering people, giving them a skill, giving them health, you know, giving them, you know, like, hey, change your diet, try this thing, you know. And so I think that's important. So we just need to do more of these, you know, and it's great that you got a PR team that's doing those things. So I do want to get, because you're the VP artist development for East Lawn Records.
Yeah, so, you know, I got this other job. They gave me a title last year, Vice President of Artist Development, for a blues and jazz record label in Detroit that the owners of I have some long history with. And in fact, R.J. Spangler, who is my dear friend and musical genius buddy, founded the label, and I participated in recording his first album in 1977. It's been my passion, my other job all my life. I mentioned earlier, before we went on air, I was the audio manager of the Reggae Sunsplash in 1981, and an innovator back then. We live streamed digitally to Japan Radio Network, the BBC, and NPR, the entire show live digital by satellite in 1981.
Were you working with Ronnie Burke at the time?
No, I was working for a company called Artisan Recorders here out of Fort Lauderdale, and Byron helped us out a little bit with some equipment, but I was hired by the video production company to coordinate everything. So we were still using cassette tapes but we were also experimenting with digital recorders, and so I got to see that whole era happen. It started in Detroit. I worked in the studio where Motown started, United Sound. My son lives 2 blocks from there now. It's a national landmark. And so anyhow, I got stranded in a blizzard 3 years ago this month, and RJ invited me to come to a show, and we decided to do a record together. It just sort of happened. And then we did another one, and then we did another one, and that one, the third one, this time last year was number 23 on the Billboard Jazz charts. Very successful record. We've got a couple more in the works, and always our product, even though it may be regional, we get lots and lots of airplay. We have a really wonderful fan base, and so RJ and I try to co-produce 3 to 4 albums a year. This year we'll do 4.
Wow. Cool. So, oh, so I wanted to ask a couple of questions, and we're running out of time. So hopefully you'll come back on another time because we didn't get through everything.
Well, I had to walk at least, 170 feet to get here from my house. So
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. So if you had access to a time machine, where would you go?
Oh, I know exactly. But I got to see the question earlier.
Oh.
You know where I want to go? I want to go back to 1904, and I want to meet my great-grandfather. And I want to be at the intersection of where he and a guy named Henry Ford got together, and they built a building where Henry designed a product called the Model T. And I'm very proud of the fact my great-grandfather was the guy who helped Mr. Ford build his home and build his early factories, and then I grew up around all of this. The first job site I think I was on, I was about 8 or 9 years old. I remember going to where in 1961 where they began to build the Mustang car, which today is still also a very popular car. I want to go back there. I would like to see the early part of the Industrial Revolution, and I wonder if we didn't make one of the hugest mistakes of all mankind by building all those cars and putting all that pollution up in our atmosphere. As much as I think it was one of the greatest innovations of the 20th century, if not of all time, and many other folks believe that the mass-produced automobile was the biggest game changer of the 20th century. Whether that's all good or not, I'm not convinced. I'd like to go back, and I wish I could ask them the questions, if I could take them forward and say, in light of what we, so that's my answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And if someone was trying to reach out to you, how would they get a hold of you?
Oh, wow.
Do you have a preference of social media?
I'm Scott Strawbridge on Facebook. I'm Scott Strawbridge at gmail.com.
Okay.
Those would be great ways. I don't think I'll give out my cell phone number
Yeah.
on Facebook Live. I could, but I probably won't take your call, so it isn't going to benefit either of us. I'm only teasing.
Yeah.
But no, those are great ways. Email me at my name at gmail.com or check me out on Facebook.
Okay, so I think I'm getting notice we've ran out of time. I definitely would like to have you back on, and I'll post the link because you gave me the link to the website for the Housing Authority. I think it's going to be on the comments. So thank you again for being
Niki.
here.
Sounds
Thanks.
good.
So yes, if you're seeing this, definitely please join us again next Tuesday. So every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. we'll be here. And just for anyone who's local in South Florida, I'm at the 1310 Gallery. This is my home studio. There's a show up, 3 Worlds, by the curator David Muir. And it's going to be up until from January, February, and I think parts of March. my film team, 1310 Bandits, is having a free film screening. We did a call for film, so we're showing 5 different teams of short films. There's going to be an Audience Choice Award and a film networking. That's Saturday, February 10th, and that's going to be, I'll post a link later if it's not there. Also, if you're in the community, if you're in the 33311 zip code, if you're a part of Sistrunk downtown, Northwest Gardens, I do run the social media for Northwest Gardens community. So the Northwest Gardens, there's on Facebook, there's Northwest Gardens or NWG community on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll post the links. There's a lot happening in the community.
Megaphone.
Oh, the megaphone.
Our outdoor living room.
Yes, so the megaphone is really cool. There's a monthly performance with poetry and art going on. That's what the first Saturday.
First Saturday, Darius Daughtry hosts
Yes,
Saturday sessions. Third Saturday, we have Sistrunk Soup, our crowdfunding project.
Yes, Sistrunk Soup. So if you have a project that you want to see on the ground, come out there. It's like $5 to get in, and whoever wins, you get the pot of.
Well, yeah, we give away a couple $1,000s a year for startup projects and for commissioning artists and performers too.
And one guy ended up getting a scholarship, like for $40,000.
$60,000.
$60,000.
Who's counting? Hey, maybe he's watching us.
Definitely want to tune
right
into
now.
the megaphone.
Tremaine.
Great interview, much success. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks, Tia. That's my Tia in Virginia, Tia Joanne. Always supporting me, so she's out here. So again, thank you for joining. We went over a little bit, so hopefully
I had
share
fun.
that. Yeah, thank you. I had
Thanks.
fun too. So and I liked hearing all the different. I didn't know about your great grandfather, so that's interesting. And so join us again next week Tuesday. Good night.
Bye.